So Hanish, you had asked me to pick up a concept to explain that in the class. Good news is, I could not pick up all that you were asking for, but at least we can talk about the concavity, the concepts. What do we mean by the decreasing? There are two ways of looking at the concavity, right? One is the increasing concavity and one is decreasing one. Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the concept level, and then we'll also talk about how do we derive the law of sine and law of cosine. Do you guys know what is law of cosine and law of sine? I'm sorry, you know? No? Wonderful. How about Datta? You know what is law of sine, law of cosine? Praneet, you? Rania? Can you write it down for me? Law of sine. Let's see. Treat this like a fun activity, okay?
Like I remember learning it, but I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
That's what I mean.
Okay. So first of all, there's something called. So let's talk about average rate of change. Average rate of change. This is the key concept behind concavity. Right, Hanish? Have you heard about this before? And interestingly, Hanish and Praneet have common dress. Same dress code. Alright, yes Praneet, you're saying something. Go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you, I can see you. No, so I was saying that average rate of change, that is what is called, that is what denotes or helps us derive concavity. Okay? And there are a lot of concepts around differentiation also beyond this. We will not talk about that because that is part of calculus and I will not try rushing for a lot of concepts. But average rate of change. Let's say you have a function f of x, y equal to f of x. And I'm not defining what this f of x is. Okay? You have a function which plots something in the coordinate plane, something like this. Okay? Now, what is this AROC or average rate of change task? It tells us what is the behavior of the function in a given range. Let's say here my value of x is 1 and here the value is 2, here the value is 3, here the value is 4, here the value is 5. You look at this range from 1 to 2. What do you see? For every increase of x, y is increasing. Okay? So it's certainly there's a positive or a upward trend. It's called let me look at how do you represent this. I just tried glancing through this to look at the pictorial part of it. One second. I'm just trying to look for the diagram or the notation basically. Okay, leave it. So here, let's look at this range from 1 to 2. You see that your average rate of change is in the positive direction, meaning for every increase of x, your value of the function is increasing. Similarly, if you look at this range, let's say from 3 to 4, for this input, when x value is from 3 to 4, what do you see? Your average rate of change is moving on the downward side. So what do you see here? If you look at the curve's behavior, this is upward concave. Here it is concave, but downward. So when for every increase of x in a given range, the y value or the function's value is decreasing, this is called negative concave and this is called positive concave. Okay. Now, yeah.
Wait, in school, because like I'm doing this right now.
Mhm.
Like they told me like that this whole thing would be concave, and this whole thing would be concave.
Yeah. So this is concave, this is increasing, this is decreasing. Why? So, and always the concavity is measured in a given range. Because your function, it doesn't see, unless you're talking about a straight line, your rate of change is not predictable. If you're looking at a polynomial, a higher power of the x as an input, you will see that your graph is always like a curve, and then for different range it will have different behavior. For certain range it is the average rate of change is decreasing. For certain range it is increasing, and you'll see that as a behavior for the given range. Yes, Pradeep, you're saying something. So point of inflection I have not talked about yet. So again, if you look at the concavity, right? Let's look at this curve. Okay, this graph that is coming from a function. If you look at any range like this, you see there is a downward concavity or decreasing concavity. If you are looking at, let's say, this range for x value, let's say -3 and -2, you see an upward concavity or positive concavity. Okay. Now, in this range, let's say from here to here, what do you see? It was coming as a downward concavity or decreasing concavity. At this point or in this range, it became pretty much flat, and then it started increasing again. So this is your point of inflection. Yes, Pradeep. Yes. Okay, let me give some value to it. 1, 2, let's say this is 3, this is 4, and this is -2, -3. So tell me which range you are talking about, Pradeep. No, so this is positive. This is upward concavity. Now let's look at the mathematical side of it. What does concavity say? Or average rate of change say? Average rate of change says that function at point B minus value of the function at point A divided by B minus A. Meaning, what is the output change for you for the given range? Now, when we are talking about concavity, you don't look at one scenario to derive it. You have to look at different range. Let's say if you are trying to find out concavity from here to here, what you will do is you will look at, you probably break that into 3 or 4 pieces and look at from here to here what happened to my average rate of change, what happened to my average rate of change, what happened to my average rate of change, what happened to my average rate of change for these 4 ranges. And let's say here my average rate of change was 3, here it was 4, here it was 5, here it was 6. Then I will say this was upward concavity or positive concavity. If I pick the range where even if it is going up, let's look at this situation. Let's say I have my y value is increasing. Okay, let me okay. So look at, if I am trying to find out the concavity or the between these 2 points, here you will see that my rate of change is higher, let's say 3. Here It's increasing but at a slower pace. Here it is increasing but at a further slower pace. Let's say it becomes 1. So here we are talking about negative concavity if my rate of change is decreasing. Yes, Pranay. You don't seem to be convinced. I am having difficulty being able to hear you. Your voice was a little muffled. Can you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at it in a much more simplistic way, and we will probably try breaking it down further in the coming classes. But I picked up this topic in a hurry when I was driving back from office for Hanish, okay, because he wanted to talk about this one. He has a test coming up. So let's first put the simple things together, okay, concept wise. So let me ask this question to Hanish. So Hanish, what is that you know about concavity first? Let's start from there. Okay. Okay. So see, look at this one. Let's not look at the graph first. The most important concept here is average rate of change. That determines whether it's positive concavity or negative concavity. If your rate of change is having an upward trend, okay, for a given range. Let's say you have a table, okay, of x and y value. Let me put it in a way. This is f of x and this is x. This is f of x or y, and this is x. Let's say when x is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, and f of x is, let's say, 6, 9, 14, or let's say 13, 18, and 24. Okay. Now you guys tell me, what is the concavity you see here? Is it positive concavity or negative concavity based on the table that you see here? Let's find it out. Yes, doctor. Okay. Yes, doctor. You tell me. You said positive. Yeah, Pranay. Honey is also got positive concavity, right? Same thing. Now let's look at it mathematically. Let's forget about the graph. My drawing skill could be horrible, okay? So let's not rely on that. Now let's look at it mathematically. What does average rate of change say? let's look at average rate of change from 1 to 2, average rate of change from 2 to 3, average rate of change from 3 to 4, and average rate of change from 4 to 5. Okay. See, average rate of change is nothing but the value of the function at the target point minus value of the function at the initial point. So 9 minus 6, 3 divided by x2 minus x1, 2 minus 1. This is 1. 3 by 1. In this case, 13 minus 9 is 4 by 1. In this case, it is 18 minus 13, that is 5 by 1. And here it is 24 minus 18, that is 6 by 1. So what you see, average rate of change is 3, 4, 5, 6. When the average rate of change is increasing. What is average rate of change? Average rate of change is nothing but, let's say if you have, let's say if my 2 points are so very close that it looks like a straight line. Okay. If I am saying my average rate of change is less or more, it is nothing but it is my slope of this. If I treat these 2 points as two these points and I am drawing a line between them, my average rate of change is nothing but it tells me the slope of that line. Yeah? Yes, Pradeep? Right. So I'm coming to that. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here is, let's first look at what is happening here. Let's say we are looking at 1 to 2. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3, 4, 5. Yeah. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From 1 to 2, what we are saying is this is 3. So this slope was less. Let's say slope was less. Slope increased. It further increased. It further increased. Okay. So the range that we have picked up, it is not giving me exact whether what is my point of inflection, right? Is it going to continue going up or it will come down, or is it already on the verge of or it is going to go up, as it going to start coming down. So I don't know the point of inflection yet from the data that we have. But here the point that you guys are making, and I agree to that, if my slope is going like this, okay, with whatever range we are looking at, if my average rate of change is giving me this trend, this is upward concavity, meaning initially my rate of change is going down and then it is going up. This is upward concavity. If it is giving me this picture, meaning it is at a point, it initially goes up and then comes down, that is downward concavity. So this will be, again, only parameter that will help you derive this will be based on whether you are, based on your data, what is your average rate of change? Is your average rate of change giving you this picture or this picture? If it's giving you this picture, it's upward concavity or positive concavity. If it's giving you an inverted moon or whatever you call it, it's negative or downward concavity. I will try not to muddle the water much right now, because I just wanted to call out that what is the role of concavity and what is the data behind this. Who determines the concavity? This is what we have to kind of practice as much as we can, and that should help us determine that. Yep. I'll be very honest, okay? I have not done enough preparation on this one with enough problems to justify what I'm saying. I just wanted to bring this concept to Hanish because he wanted to talk about it. If I did not do a good job, it is my job to go back and make you guys practice, make myself practice more on this one. But I just want to touch upon the concept that okay, what is concavity for us? It is nothing but the slope of the line. It is nothing but the trend or the slope of change. I mean the rate at which my graph is changing in the given interval. If couple of intervals put together, if it is graphing something like this, I am talking about upward concavity. If it's giving a picture like this, I am talking about downward concavity. So, Hanish, I am not sure, okay, if this is going to be helpful for you or not. Right. So, I will make sure that we talk about this topic in detail in the next class. Okay. We will probably make sure that if this, so Ananya, in your school also they are teaching this one right now.
Yeah.
And do you guys have any idea about what is the topic that they will cover in next month or so? Concavity is one. What is next? Coming next? I want to align.
I can check and tell you guys.
Okay.
I can message you
Okay.
tomorrow.
So Hanish and Ananya, for both of you, okay, and also Datta, if you guys are having pre-calculus going on in your school, if you could let me know what is going to be covered in next 1 month, I will make sure that we cover that in next few weeks, and then we'll go with our flow of from the beginning of the year. Okay. Vishal, Praneet, if you guys have any feedback, please let me know. Okay. All right. So we want to talk about law of sine and law of cosine. That was my agenda for today. Okay, that is what I was prepared for. Okay, I mean, I don't think I prepared for that one. I actually, we covered pre-calculus 1 iteration so far, and I wanted to repeat or restart the same iteration going from the first unit. So before doing that, I wanted to look at some of the concepts that would come out to be handy for us. So that's why I was tempted to either talk about trig functions, a unit circle, or straight away talk about law of sine and law of cosine. Unit circle I did not pick up because that would have been probably too easy for you guys. You would have thought that okay, there is no point doing it afresh. We will come across it when we are using it actually. Okay, so that is when we will, if there is something that is not clear, we can certainly talk about it. So law of sine, law of cosine, let's start with that. Is it okay, Hanish, Vishal, Datta, Praneet? Now the $1 million question is why do we need to learn about it? What does it do? Praneet, any idea? Why do we have to even bother about law of sine, law of cosine? We have enough to get troubled with. Why one extra thing? What is that? Okay, that's a little subjective statement, but you are thinking the right direction for sure. So, what is law of sine actually? Now let's start from the beginning. If I have a right angle triangle, our starting point was that Pythagorean theorem. If I have two sides known to me in a right angle triangle, then I can find out the length of the hypotenuse using Pythagorean theorem. It says a square plus b square equal to c square. Yeah. So this was only depicting the relationship between the sides. Then came the trig ratios or trig functions, where we said okay fine, we can relate the angles with the sides. So this is when we talk about sine theta equal to a by c at the opposite side by hypotenuse, cos theta equals adjacent side by hypotenuse which is b by c, and tan theta equals opposite side by adjacent side a by b. So here what happened was, if you look at it carefully, all these trig functions were working fine for a right angle triangle. Okay. So the relationship was established between the angle and side only for right angle triangle. If we go to the next flavor of it, it's a triangle where it's not a right angle triangle. We are not mandating it. We are saying it's just a triangle. It may be or may not be a right angle triangle. In that case, if I have these three sides A, B and C, how do we establish the relationship between the angle and the side? So this is where the law of sine helps us establish that relationship. If the angle applicable to the side A is A, capital A, angle applicable to the side B is capital B, and angle applicable to the side C is capital C, law of sine says A over sine A is equal to B over sine B is equal to C over sine C. Yeah? And law of sine actually goes beyond the boundaries of right angle triangle. All the three ratios, three functions that we talked about, that we learned, was pretty much confined to a right angle triangle. We went a little bit beyond that by using unit circle. That okay, if my angle is more than 90, what do I do? But this becomes the most generic formula to use or establish the relationship between the sides and angles of a triangle, regardless of what kind of triangle we are talking about. Because one thing that you would have noticed, or you will keep on noticing, if not I will keep on reminding you guys to notice, that for every triangle there is a very strong linkage between the side and angle. If I draw a triangle in my dreams, this is the triangle I have drawn in my dreams, okay? You can simply observe that the side opposite to the smallest angle is also the smallest side. If this is the biggest side of this triangle, the angle opposite to that will be the biggest angle as well. So there is a very strong linkage, strong relationship between the angles and sides in the triangle. Okay? So that is what gets established. This is the ratio of the of the side and the angle, represented in the form of a theorem called law of sine, is what you are seeing here. And what it says, that if let's say this was A, this angle was capital A, this was B, and this side was small b, this angle was C and capital C, and this was small c. Side to the sine ratio of the angle opposite to that is always constant. That's what law of sine says. In other words, if you know two sides and you know one of the angles opposite to that, you can find rest of the properties of the triangle. That's what Pranil was talking about. He was saying that if you know, you can use the law of sine to find out the value of the basic properties of a triangle. Yeah. So let's look at a case. Let's say I have this side's length known and this side's length known. Okay. So in this triangle, I know this side's length is, let's say, 5 centimeter, and this side's length is, let's say, 12 centimeter. And I know this angle is given to me as, let's say, 80 degrees. And this angle is given to me as 45 degrees. Can I find out the length of other sides or not? So if I know these two angles, I can find out this angle as well, because sum of all the angles is 180 degree. But can I find out the other sides? That is what this slide helps you. So if you know this side and you know the angle opposite to that, find out the sine of that angle. If you know any other side, you know this side, you plug in this value, you know this value, you can find out the other angle. So any two sides that you know, and one of the angles opposite to that side, if you know, you can find out the rest of the properties using law of sine. And we'll prove this also. We'll prove this law of sine also, how this was derived. Now let me give you guys a riddle. Law of sine, I just showed you what exactly it is, and I have not proved that yet, which I will do. Now I'm giving you guys a riddle. I have this triangle. I know this side A, this side is B. and this angle C is given to me. I want you guys to find out the remaining two sides, remaining side and the other two angles. Can you use law of sine to find it out? Give it a try. See, I have given you guys the formula, right? A by sine A equal to B by sine B equal to C by sine C. And right now I am not asking you guys to solve it. I am just saying that this is the formula that we already have. It says if you know any of the two sides and one of the angles, you can find out the other angle and other sides. And I am saying this is one side given to us and this other side given to us, and this angle between the two sides is given to us. Can you find out the third side and other two angles using this formula? Just make your judgment and tell me. Don't try calculating it. Okay? And here A is the angle and capital A is the A is the side and capital A is the angle opposite to this side. That's the relationship here. Yep. Praneet, Vishal, Datta, Manish, what do you guys think? Can you find it out? This is a riddle that you have to solve. And the answer is no. So I am contradicting myself right now. If, look at this, if you know A, see, let's start putting in the value. This one you know, okay? And this one also you know here. And what you know is this angle here. Now if you take these two, A by sine A equal to B by sine B, you have both the things are known to you. If you take this combination, this is known, this is known. These two things are known. Right? If you take these two combinations, this one is known and this one is known. These two are known. So from any equation, you cannot solve for two variables. Right? If you have only one equation. If you take these two combinations, A by sine A equal to B by sine B. Here in this situation, what is known to you? Only A and only B. Sine A and sine B is not known. Both are not known. So you cannot derive it. If you take this combination, B is known and sine C is known. These two are not known. You are just getting a ratio. You have to take an absolute value. Yeah? Praneet, Datta, Vishal. This is where the second law comes into the picture. That is called law of cosine. And law of cosine says C square equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB cos C. So here it establishes that relationship. It says if you have two sides known to you and the angle between the two sides known to you, then you can find out the third side. So this side and this side known to you and the angle between them known to you, then you can use the law of cosine which says A square plus B square minus 2 times AB into cos of the angle between the two sides will be equal to C square. This is your law of cosine. So what I was trying to say was, law of sine helps you find out the missing properties. If you have any two sides of a triangle known and one of the angles opposite to the known sides is known. However, if the two sides that are known to you, none of the angles opposite to them are known, but the angle between the two sides is known, then you can use law of cosine. That's the primary difference between law of sine and law of cosine. So far I have not taught you guys anything. I have only enabled you guys to make a judgment that okay, when will you use law of sine, when will you use law of cosine. Now let's look at a scenario. If I say I have a triangle, I know this angle, I know this side, and I know this angle. This angle is known, this angle is known, and this side is known. Which one you will use, law of sine or law of cosine? Go ahead. Left side. Okay. Yes. Nanta. I'm sorry. Be more confident than me. Say that, sir, I want to fight with you and I want to argue with you. It is going to be love sign. That is what I like the most. Okay. Yes, buddy. Love cosine. Okay. Anish, what do you think? If I have this angle and this angle known to me and this side known to me, which one I will use? Love sine, love cosine. I'm sorry, brother? Love cosine. So two of you have said love cosine, two of you have said love sine. Now the decision lies with Vishal. What do you think?
I think it might be
Now it is left to my veto power. And I am saying this is love sine. Why? Because, see, love sine is a direct relationship between the side and the angle opposite to that. Side and the angle opposite to that. Side and the angle opposite to that. If I have a situation where I have one combination of side and angle known, other angle known, I can find out the third side. Second side. If I know two sides, two angles, third angle, I can anyways find and plug it here. I can find the third side connected also. So simple judgment is, if you see an angle and side opposite to that known, even if one combination is known, you are good to use law of sine. If you ever see, look at this situation. If this side is known, this side is known, this angle is known. See, none of the sides opposite angle are known. When sides opposite angle is not known for any of the combination, you don't have a choice to use law of sine. Yeah? Am I being clear? Yeah? Now, before we try using it, let's try to derive how law of sine came into existence. Let's say A by sine A equal to B by sine B equal to C by sine C. Somebody is forcing you guys to believe this. This is saying this is law of sine. Yeah. So let's try proving it. Let's try to make sure that we get a grasp of it and we get convinced that yes, this is to be believed. Yes, Vishal. No, it's okay. Alright. So here, let's say this is a triangle PQR. Okay? Let's say this side's length is A, this side's length is B, and this side's length is C. Okay? And obviously this angle will be A, this angle will be B, this angle will be C. Okay? Now, let me drop a perpendicular from here to here. PQR, let's say this point is S. Okay? Now, let me make it colorful. So, the triangle that I had, PQR, I dropped a perpendicular from the point P onto this side, which met this line at point S. Now I have two triangles. I had one boring triangle which I converted into two interesting triangles, one yellow color, one green color. Okay? Yellow triangle is triangle PQS, yellow one, and the green triangle is PRS. If you guys need more color coding, this is what it is. The green one is this one. Okay? Are you guys with me so far? With whatever circus and drama I've done? Okay? Yes, I've seen your circles already. Okay, alright. So, honeys, so far okay with that? Am I making sense so far? Yeah, okay. So, we just, I did nothing actually. I just took a triangle, double perpendicular. I'm saying, okay, this side of the triangle, this smaller triangle is PQS and this triangle is PRS. And since I have dropped a perpendicular, so this one is 90 degree, this one is 90 degree as well. So if I'm looking at the yellow triangle, PQS, let's find out the length of this side, PS. PS, this is angle B and this is side opposite to that. So applying SOHCAHTOA, sine of B will be equal to PS divided by hypotenuse, which is B. PS divided by, what am I doing right now? I am messing up. This is not B. This is my angle B. So side opposite that will be this one as B. This is my angle C. Side opposite that will be C. That's why I was wondering how come I'm getting it wrong. Okay. So now I'm looking at sine of B will be opposite side opposite to that divided by hypotenuse. So PS divided by C. In this green triangle, if you see, what will be sine of C? Sine of C will be equal to side opposite to that, which is PS, divided by the hypotenuse of this right angle triangle, which is B. So what you see is, here from this yellow triangle you see PS equal to C sine B. From this green triangle you found PS equal to B sine C. And PS is the same side. So I can say this PS coming from here is equal to this PS. Or I can say C of sine B equal to B of sine C. Yeah? That means bring sine B next to this guy and bring sine C next to this guy. So this became C over sine C equal to B over sine B. Yeah? I did nothing, okay? I literally did nothing. I just took a triangle, I gave name to the sides and the angles opposite to it, and picked one of the vertex, dropped a perpendicular, we split this triangle into two parts. I took this triangle, applied sine of that angle, took this triangle, applied sine of that angle, and both gave me value of this with respect to sine and the side. And since this is common side between this triangle and this triangle, so I am just matching that, and which gave me sine of C by sine C equal to B by sine B. Likewise, we can pick up other combination, drop a perpendicular, do the same stunt, we will be able to find it. Yeah. So that is why the law of sine can be believed, because we saw it happening. Yeah. Praneet, Vishal, Anish, Datta, okay. So this law of sine, at least I have done a little bit of work to make you guys convinced that law of sine is trustworthy, a little more trustworthy than your teacher itself. Yeah. So you can use it. It's safe to use this formula. Yeah. As if we have seen the proof by our own eyes, so we can trust this. Now, is everybody okay so far? Yeah. So, what this has enabled us with is, see, no matter how much we grow, where we go, there are some basic things that will stick with us. No matter what you try doing, we will end up doing 4 operations for the rest of your life: addition, subtraction, multiplication. Okay? In different shapes and forms. No matter how much you learn. See, you learned about triangles when you guys were probably 6, 7, 8 years old. And you learned about this triangle. Now what you are learning is how to find out more about it. How to use different concepts to find some of the missing information. so that I can draw a triangle. I mean, you can just take a scale and draw a triangle by itself. But then things are getting more scientific, where we are trying to derive properties based on certain known properties and certain missing properties. And depending on what is known to us, you will use different methods to derive the remaining or missing properties. So we just saw that, okay, if I have one side and one of the angle known, this combination known, and anything else, be it this side known. If I know this side and this angle, which are opposite to each other, and I know this side, then I can plug that into the side law of sine and find out this angle. Once I found this side, this angle, then the only third angle I have to find out, which will be 180 minus the other two. So once I found this angle also, then I can again plug into sine of law of sine and find it out. Yeah. So law of sine, the most dirty technique that you can keep in mind is, I will use law of sine if I have one combination of side and angle. Opposite to that, no. If I don't see a pair of angle and side opposite to each other known to me, I cannot rely on law of sine. My go-to point would be law of cosine. Yeah. So if I make this triangle rotate, make the triangle slip here, not slip, sleep here. If I give you this angle at this side and this side, and say find out law of sine, you will say find somebody else to solve it for me. I need at least 3 properties. Only 2 sides are known. And this is not a right angle triangle, there is no way you can find it out. You need at least one angle. If I give you this angle, you will use law of sine, because this is opposite to one of the known sides. If I don't give you this angle, if I give you this angle, then you see this angle is not opposite to any of the known sides. And you will use law of cosine. What is law of cosine? Law of cosine is C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C. So here you are not using sine angle, sine function or sine trig ratio, sine trig ratio. You are using cosine. That's why it's called law of cosine. Yeah. Now we have just 10 minutes. I can certainly try giving it a shot. Rush through it. I'm just wondering, will that be a good idea? I'm just thinking, will I be able to do justice with that? Okay, let me try proving that law of cosine in the next class, or whenever it is right time. Maybe next class will dedicate for talking about concavity and average rate of change. Yeah, this is what is going to be relevant for Hanish, Datta, Rania, and also if you guys could tell me what is planned for your as based on your school curriculum for next 1 month. We will try covering those topics first, because we are starting afresh. Right? So I would certainly want to make sure that it must be beneficial for everybody, and whichever topic I pick up, we'll make sure that we go enough into depth to be able to decode everything and anything that is related to that topic. It's not, if you come across any question on those topics, you should not have any doubt about it. That should be our plan. Yeah. Yes, Anish, you were saying something. You are muted yourself. Go for it. Yeah. And sometimes teacher might not give you all the topics. You will have to probably do a little bit of hunting on school curriculum or whatever gives you some guidance on that. Or you might want to talk to some of your seniors who have taken pre-calculus in the previous year to understand what are the things that they are trying to do. They mostly cover. I mean, at least if you get a high level view, that will be a good starting point for us. I mean, anything that we learn is not going to harm or hurt. We just want to put some more method in the manual. That's all. Yeah? Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, brother? Yeah. Send it, let's say, so do one thing, method. you can send it in the same group for pre-calculus, okay? So that everybody has it for reference. They can also see what is common for them, what is the delta, okay? So, yeah? Yeah. Send that in the group. That's better. Now, what I want to do is, we still have 8 more minutes to go. I want to see how comfortable are you guys with what you already know. So this is, now we just learned the law of sine. I want to see how you guys are applying it. So this is what we have here. I want you guys to find out the length of the other two sides. I'll not ask for angle because that is below standard for you guys. Let's see how much you guys have played with trigonometry in your time so far. So this is a triangle where one of the angle is 60 degree, another angle is 75 degree, and this side is 12 centimeter. I want you guys to find out the length of the other two sides. Just for me. Sorry, say that again. For both the sides. So this is, let's say, 1 and this is 2. Tell me which one you got. 1 is how much or 2 is how much? 1 is how much? 11. Okay. How about number 2? Okay. Oops. Yes, Vishal. Okay. Around 9. Okay. Yeah, buddy. Hanish. Okay. Ananya. Hello yet. How was the third? What is that? You are the same. Now, can somebody explain me how did you get these values? Yeah, you are the same. So, Hanish, maybe I will put you on the spot. Can you explain me better? How did you get these values? What was the approach? I'm not concerned about the calculation part of it. The approach only. Okay. So let's say this is A, this is B, and this is C. So A by, this is angle A. So side upward, that is 1, number 1. That is what we are trying to find out. A by sine of 60 degree equal to number 2 by number 2 by, this is 60, 75, 1, how much? 135, so this is 45 degree. Sine of 45 degree is equal to this one divided by sine 65 degree. So 12 divided by sine 75 degree. So this is what you would have done. And you guys would have used calculator to find out these values, or you did some other trig functions to derive these values. Sine 75 is how much? How did you find that out? Using calculator or? Okay. Okay. Using calculator? Okay. And calculator, there is no harm in using calculator. But there are certain things that we have learned, we should look at leveraging them. Let's say sine 60 degree. Sine 60 degree everybody knows. This is nothing but root 3 by 2. Sine 45 degree, you all know, it is 1 by root 2. Sine 75 will be nothing but, and probably I am teaching you guys some lengthy methods, okay? Sine sum of angles, this is something that we have learned in one of the classes. What is the formula for sine of sum of angles? Do you guys remember that? Sine of A plus B equal to how much? Let's see who all remembers it. And again, I'm not a big fan of memorizing things, but we practice it enough to see if that stays with us. Yes, the third.
I think it was sine of A cos
Uh-huh.
A sine.
Yes, you're right. That is sum of angles of sine. So sine of A plus B is nothing but sine of A cos B plus cos of A sin B. And when you change the sign, you just change the sign here also. Similarly, cos of A plus B is cos of A cos of B minus sin of A sin of B. And you guys will think that okay, I have memorized it. I ended up memorizing it for teaching you guys because I have proved this formula so many times that now it has got glued to me. So this is called law sum of angles for sine and cosine. There is this table that I keep talking about, that there are some most commonly used angles 0 degree, 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree and 90 degree. These are the angles for which you will end up using or memorizing the value of these angles, sine of 10, 0, 30, 45, 60, 90. That's why I was putting sine 45 1 by root 2. That's coming from this table. So if you have any two angles known to you, like 75 you can break into 45 plus 30. These are some of the trigonometric identities or functions that we will anyways learn. But if we know it, we can use it. I always keep my hands empty. Apart from this one, I don't have anything in my hand. Even if I have my calculator in the phone, I hardly bother to use it actually. Because the funny part is, till I was preparing for my entrance exams, there was no concept of using calculator during our generation. Once I got selected to the entrance exam, then I stopped studying immediately. After going to engineering college, it was like 4 years of fun time. I'll only study during the exam time. So I never got used to calculator. So whatever I do is based on my own calculation skills. Calculators are used very minimal, very minimal. That's why I'm pretty much an old school guy, like you guys. Okay? And in a way it helps because at least I have an opportunity of teaching you guys things. Otherwise you'll say, you know what, you can calculate. And that is not something that you want to hear from a teacher. If a teacher says you can calculate, what is that teacher has to do? I should be teaching you the basics and then you will add your intelligence and smartness on top of that to make your calculation faster. If I say, okay, everything is given to you, you are actually wasting time with me if you are coming to the class. Yeah? So I am breaking it down, telling you what is the logic that is there inside the calculator. So that you are ready to build your own calculator when you guys grow up. Okay? Alright. With that being said, I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll meet again next class. Okay? Yes, Pradeep. Saturday, Sunday morning class. Okay. Okay, not a problem. Alright?